Hello, and welcome to this virtual presentation of our research evaluating the presence of ACEs, mental illness, and poverty in the jail populations in the Chippewa Valley. Our research team consists of Mackenzie, Shay, Callie, Vogel, Zielinski, Allison, Schwarz, and Natalie, and our wonderfully dedicated mentor, Dr. Ruth, Cronje. First, we would like to say thank you and mention our partners without whom this project would not be possible. Thank you to the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire and its University Honors Program, the Clear Vision Mental Health and Incarceration Justice Citizen Action Team, and Ex-Incarcerated People Organizing, or EXPO, our partners. We would also like to recognize the jail staff who have been instrumental in the data collections at all three counties, Dunn County, Chippewa County, and Eau Claire County. Thank you. The data that we will be sharing with you today has come from 2 weekends where our team and other honor students interviewed incarcerated people in the 3 county jails. Due to some construction, we were unable to get into Dunn County this spring, but they participated in our October data collection. We have used SPSS software analysis to determine that the data results from the 2 collections were not statistically different. So we have combined them for this presentation and further analysis. Our sample size is 124 people, and on some graphs we note a number that is a little bit lower due to some participants skipping a question or 2. The first measure we will discuss is adverse childhood experiences, or trauma that occurs before age 18. We will refer to these as ACEs for the rest of the presentation. ACEs result from household dysfunction, abuse, or neglect. For our interviews, we use the same questions as the CDC does in their Behavioral Risks Nationwide Survey. Questions include, did you grow up with a parent who was an alcoholic or excessive drinker? Were your parents divorced or separated? As well as questions that ask about physical and sexual abuse. It is important to note that most people have at least one ACE, and according to Wisconsin.gov, 57% of Wisconsin population has at least one ACE. But significant trauma affects brain development, especially when repeated. It can permanently damage neural pathways, and it leaves the brain in a survival mode. When an ACE score is 4 or more, then it is considered serious trauma and is associated with negative effects such as high blood pressure, heart disease, other health problems, and other behavioral and mental health issues, according to Hughes et al. In 2017. For our ACE score results, we had 45 people who showed a score of less than 4 and 79 people with a score of 4 or more. This is significant because that means 64% of our people we interviewed had the score of 4 or more, which indicates serious trauma that is associated with the other negative health outcomes mentioned.
Another measure that we used in our data collection was the Adult Resiliency Measure, or ARM. Resilience deals with a balance between the positive outcomes in someone's life, such as opportunities for skill development and supportive relationships, and the negative factors in their life, such as abuse, neglect, poor nutrition, racism, violence, and chemicals in their system. The higher one's resilience level is, the more likely positive outcomes will occur despite the negative factors they may encounter. One's level of resilience is affected by the environment in which they live, including their support system, their access to healthcare and educational achievements, their occupation, finances, and stressors in their life, their exposure to chemicals, and their nutrition. The level of resilience one has can affect their ability to withstand any adverse childhood experiences they may have had, and knowing the score can help to predict how someone will react to situations in their adult life. The revised version of the Adult Resiliency Measure, or ARM, test was originally validated in the UK. This measure asks questions relating to the feelings of belongingness in one's community, feeling supported by family or friends, and feeling or knowing that if one is hungry, they can get food to eat, just to name a few. Looking at our data, out of those we interviewed, 58 people, or 48%, are reported as having a low level of resilience. This is followed by 30 people having a moderate level of resilience and only 11 people having a high level of resilience. However, 20 of the people we interviewed are reported to have an exceptional level of resilience. Overall, these numbers are significant in the fact that almost half of the people we interviewed who are incarcerated are reported as having a low level of resilience to negative factors in their life.
Overcrowding in jails has become a major issue that counties, states, and federal prisons face today. Part of that issue stems from the fact that criminal justice institutions have become the default placement for the mentally ill, and unprecedented numbers are now being housed in prisons and jails instead of receiving treatment in appropriate facilities. Problems that arise can stem from the mental health status of these incarcerated individuals because they are not able to fully comprehend situations and make good decisions. These problems can include disciplinary issues, listening or rule following issues, and facing reincarceration, to name a few. Often, these incarcerated individuals are sent to isolation for disciplinary reasons, as they can have difficulty complying with prison or jail rules, possibly due to the underlying mental health issues. The United States currently boasts 10 times as many people with a serious mental illness in correctional institutions compared with confinement in mental health facilities. For our research, we used the Brief Jail Mental Health Screen, a validated screen approved by the Stepping Up initiative. This screen includes 8 questions relating to possible mental health issues. This screen does not, however, determine whether a person has a mental illness. Instead, it tells us if a person qualifies for a full diagnostic mental health workup. After analyzing our results from a sample size of 123 people, we found that 96 of the people we screened qualified for a mental health diagnostic workup, while only 27 of them did not qualify. This means that 78% of the people we screened in the Chippewa Valley jails require a complete mental health diagnostic workup. Because of this high percentage of individuals requiring mental health services, the Eau Claire County Jail has started issuing the Brief Jail Mental Health Screen during their booking process.
Next, we took a look at brain injury. Traumatic brain injury is sudden damage to the brain caused by a blow or jolt to the head. The severity of brain injury ranges from mild concussions to severe and permanent brain damage. A traumatic injury to the brain will often have lasting effects, ranging from mild disturbances to severe impairments. Some of the possible effects include poor concentration and memory, an elevated chance of receiving a psychiatric diagnosis, an increase in aggression and anger, increased impulsivity and irritability, and being less satisfied with quality of life. Many of these behaviors can make a person more likely to become incarcerated or reincarcerated, as well as more likely to struggle once in jail. Before we move on to our data, I want to emphasize that brain injury does not cause criminal behavior. There is a relationship between the two, but not a causation. While traumatic brain injury can increase some negative characteristics, this does not mean that every person who experiences one will become a criminal, or that the incarceration was caused by their brain injury. For our research in the Chippewa Valley jail populations, we used the Ohio State University TBI identification method, which is a validated screening process for traumatic brain injury. It specifically studies brain damage caused by a blow to the head striking an object, or the head being violently shaken. Due to time constraints, we weren't able to determine whether the screened individuals had experienced a traumatic brain injury. Instead, we used the screening to determine how many people had a history of brain injury. We found that 97 out of 123 individuals screened had experienced at least one brain injury in their lifetime and should have further assessment done to determine the brain damage sustained. In other words, 79% of people in our sample reported they have a history of brain injury and therefore may experience some of the behavioral changes discussed on the previous slide.
Another component of our screening was to evaluate housing instability of the incarcerated individuals. Jails and prisons provide a service desperately needed by those convicted, a secure place to stay. It is evident there is a need for housing for the incarcerated population. In the study of Nowhere to Go, Homelessness Among Formerly Incarcerated People, it stated that people who have gone to prison once are 7 times as likely to be homeless. However, those who are incarcerated more than once are 13 times as likely to be homeless. This is almost double what their first-time prison term counterparts face. The housing situation is also exacerbated by the discrimination and systematic obstacles in the housing system, as well as mental illness and substance abuse. In another article titled Homelessness and Housing Insecurity Among Former Prisoners, it illustrates how it can be difficult for released individuals to find and maintain stable employment, maintain family connections, receive physical and mental health care, and avoid substance use without stable housing. These challenges create an effect that is nearly impossible to overcome once incarcerated, as secure housing is determined to be a very pressing and immediate short-term need. One of the most substantial issues facing the incarcerated population is discrimination in the housing market to initially attain a place to live when released. As stated in the first article mentioned, discrimination by public housing authorities and private property owners, combined with affordable housing shortages, continues to drive the exclusion of formerly incarcerated people from the housing market. For the screening process, we asked several questions to evaluate the housing situation of each incarcerated individual. One question we asked was whether or not they had a place to go upon release, and if so, whether or not that was a place that they would like to return to. Of the jail population screened, only 45% responded that they would like to return to their prior residence, while 17% would not like to return, and 38% of the individuals do not have a place to go. Since less than half of the individuals indicated that they would like to return to their prior residence, there is reason to believe that housing instability is an issue that incarcerated individuals face here in the Chippewa Valley. We would like to say thank you for watching our presentation, and we'd be happy to discuss further information about our project with you if there are any questions you may have.